First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for joining today. We're happy to host the webinar today on robotics and automation. And I would like to thank all of you for joining. To give a small brief about hybrid, I'm Ajni Ranawardana. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Hybrid Education. And just to give a little bit on background on hybrid education, we are focused. Our main passion is to make sure that try to make education affordable and accessible to students and anyone who's keen to learn. We want it to be a space for those with an inquisitive mindset to learn new things, to have a clear picture on how something works, what are the interchangeable skills you can learn or that you already might have, and how to utilize them effectively. We are also happy to help with student consulting, which is offer our guidance and support to students in finding the best pathways for them beyond school by helping locate universities around the world that would fit their requirements in terms of their field of interest, culture, affordability, and so on. We also have to help you understand what career pathways are available currently and how they're evolving so you can choose what's best for you. And at the core of everything we do is creation, whether it's innovation in technology, creating art, or designs. Creative is the basis of finding solutions to any problem, thinking outside the box. So lately we found it fun and exciting to put our creative hats on, and we are happy to offer our services in helping you share your stories creatively and authentically. Whether it's you wanting to share knowledge and need help putting it together, or if it's a brand or a company with a message, we are happy to help share for you. And I would like to announce that we have partnered with Manipal as an official partner, the Manipal Academy of Higher Education in Dubai. And small video on just for like a few seconds. Sure. So we covered the teaching, employability, the research and the state of the start facilities and the internationalization, etc. I would give you more information if you're interested after the webinar, but you can always reach us on any of these platforms through email, through WhatsApp, through Facebook, or we are also on Instagram. I hope everyone is still with me. I would like to warmly welcome Midara, the speaker for today. Hi, Midara. Hello.
Hi, Ajay. I hope you can hear me.
Hi, yes. So let me introduce Midara to everybody. Midara is the CEO and co-founder of MagicBit. He is a chartered engineer by profession with his experience spanning over 10 years in the ICT industry. He graduated from University of Maratua in Sri Lanka with his bachelor's in electrical engineering, and he completed his MBA at Colombo University. He has been involved in developing award-winning innovative digital products in Sri Lanka, and he's very passionate about promoting innovations for the next generation around the country and around the world. And I have known Midara for a little while now, and we've become fast friends. We met and connected through our mutual love for students and the interest in making practical knowledge available. I have seen him help conduct workshops for students who are studying all levels to those even at a tender age of 4 or 5 years old. I've been amazed at the willingness and the enthusiasm he has to share his knowledge and the support he's shown me in the time we've known each other. Today, he's generously offered to share his knowledge with all of you, and I'm super grateful to have him. So without any delay, we'll start on the webinar. Midara, thank you for joining. I would just like to get started with maybe how you actually got interested in the field, or how you actually started being in the electrical engineering to the robotics, where you started.
I think I was kind of a nerdy kid in the school, and I loved the idea of technology, and that's how I got to this engineering field primarily. But I think maybe I I chose the electronics and this sector that I'm currently in because of the technology trend that we observed during the last 2 decades, right? So eventually we were pushed towards that area, and we were very much interested in the digital technologies and how the physical world and the digital things are getting blended together. And so I was quite curious about those things, and that actually helped me to build a career out of that area, plus develop my startup and the ventures around that area.
Sounds Megara, like, so when you started the venture with Magic Bit, if you'd like to give maybe like a little bit on like how long it's been and how it's panning over this time that you've been working with Magic Bit and the people, just a little
Yeah,
bit of.
so I think the now when we graduated, I think similar to anyone, or the majority of the students are actually looking for a high paying job. And so I also went for a high paying job at that time, and I switched from different jobs for a while. And then so I was working in the industry. While working in the industry, since we were quite curious about developing innovative solutions, and since we had kind of an edge in the industry because we had quite an experience in the electronic designing side. So we used to take assignments from different companies and do consultancy work and all that, mainly related to embedded systems, electronics, automations, IoT, and robotics and these areas, because there is a lack of practical knowledge in the Sri Lankan industry in that area, plus the lack of implementations due to high cost and many other factors. So we did that sort of consultancy work for about 5 6 years, and then we got few requests from the education sector as well to share our knowledge with them and to provide them some training platforms for them to experience this and to knowledge share with the students. And that's how we came curious about developing a product for the education industry, and that made us develop the Magic Bit product as a single platform for age 8 and above students to adults to anyone who's curious about developing practical applications using technology. So that started around 2019, and currently we are about 4.5 years old, but actually commercial production of our Magic Bit started around 2021.
Okay. And like, so if someone is looking to get into the field, what are the maybe areas they should probably look at just to start with? Is it programming, coding, like the basics that they need to maybe get started on?
I think in terms of the engineering industry, uh, at the moment we observe that there is a short period where we see that there are not many job opportunities available for most of the disciplines. For example, if you take civil engineering, because of the issues we had during the last 1 or 2 years, so the job market is market is not demanding civil engineers that much. But honestly, even if we observe the IT field, it's kind of similar at the moment because we do not observe so many job opportunities, but it is not going to last forever. Now we see that the economy is picking up, and the world recession in most part of the world is coming to an end, and the economies are booming. So that has created that we can see that is creating more and more opportunities. So it will be quickly turned upside down. So in that sense, I believe that again the ICT sector will boom definitely. Even in the IT sector, we see that areas like let's say AI is highly demanded all around the world at the moment. And eventually, I believe that one of the two things that we cannot get rid of will be AI and robotics, because
Yeah.
we will need AI to do the coding and knowledge processing and all these parts, and we will need some robotics and mechatronics related aspect to interact with the physical world, because otherwise we cannot interact with the physical world. So eventually those things will be there. Plus, I think we cannot say that there is a predominant area in engineering discipline or any other areas which is actually very important than the other areas, because I believe that there are opportunities in each of these areas. And one aspect that nobody is observing, I believe, is even in the engineering fields, let's say electronics engineering or software engineering. So primarily becoming a coder, or whether you are becoming, let's say, a pre-sales engineer or a maintenance engineer, or there are different roles you can play. So not everybody is meant to become a hardcore programmer or a tech junkie, but still with that technical knowledge, you can actually maybe use it as an analyst or a consultant at a big consulting firm, right? So
Yeah.
there are people working like that. So basically, I think different roles within those areas plus these cross disciplinary areas, these things are actually very important to consider in the present context.
When you say cross-disciplinary areas, like, can you be like give more information in terms of what are the maybe areas that people can like use in terms of they're even doing civil, or but then like or find maybe even jobs now with AI and robotics and that sort of automation coming up a bit more, that maybe they might be able to implement or use their skill in, not in the conventional way, but they might actually be able to find more, where they can input
I
themselves.
I think if you consider from a traditional career uh, point of view, so I have met many engineers in other countries who are working in the financial industry or in the Wall Street and all that, who are actually having an engineering background,
Yeah.
who and they get like really big paychecks, right? So apart from that, we see that there's a trend where the people from the tech industry, engineering, IT, and all these areas, so they are going into, let's say, areas like consulting. Let's say to big consulting firms like, let's say, McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group. So all of them have people from a tech background. And even apart from that, I believe now, since the technology has become a primary tool in every area, for example, even if you take things like fintech. So now I know there are a couple of so I know a batchmate of mine, so he works as a vice president for a foreign bank. So basically, he switched his career from engineering to the IT field to AI analytics side to going to the fintech industry. So
Yeah.
the careers can be switched like that at the moment, because the technology has become a tool
Evolve.
which can be widely applied to many areas.
And like when you say fintech, like maybe you give a small, maybe like a simple, brief understanding for maybe someone who's not as aware of what even fintech is right now, like in Sri Lanka, like
So
really.
basically, that is like financial technologies. So the
Yeah.
traditional financial companies like banks, leasing companies, insurance companies, and all that, to digital payment companies like, let's say, cards or web interfaces, to web transfers, to e-commerce platforms. So there are many fintech related applications, and it's a huge area right now.
Yeah. And like, do you see anything particularly in Sri Lanka where like you feel like, because I know you went for like, yeah, I think you attended the FinTech, the workshop visit in Singapore recently, right? Like, do
Yeah.
you see, like, when you're trying to expose yourself with other countries and like, anything that we can maybe improve on, or like where we can look at certain areas here that there's still a lot of room to like implement some of the things that other countries might be doing?
Uh, yeah, I think obviously there are a lot of things that we can do to improve ourselves. And I think whenever I go somewhere to a different country, I'm very curious to go to different universities and all that. So I've been to many universities, many schools, and all that, since I'm very curious about the education sector. And I believe that not only the education sector, but even the industry wise, uh, what I believe is now we are coming to a stage where even the job opportunities to even the entrepreneurship, business opportunities, everything is becoming kind of global. So basically, if you have a laptop and an internet connection, You can even for a US firm, and there are many people who are doing that right now. Plus, I believe it is the future of the businesses in the modern world as well. And because of that, I believe that what we have to think of is not to just to compare that, okay, we are having these different economic conditions and living conditions in Sri Lanka. So we have to ignore that, I believe. And rather than that, I think what we have to do is actually follow these global trends and adhere ourselves to comply with the industry standards across the world, right? Let's say if we can actually compete for a particular task with the most capable person in the United States, I believe that's the standard we should set in the industry at the moment. And even if you take the software industry or the IT industry in Sri Lanka, so these companies are actually serving for clients in Europe, in the US, so they are competing with everyone. So in order to do those tasks, I think we have to have that international benchmark type of knowledge and capacity and the practical know-how to everything. And I believe that most of the really capable people in the industry in Sri Lanka have that sort of good knowledge level, practical know-how, and they have demonstrated it. I think that otherwise, let's say a company like Cisco in the US will not come to Sri Lanka and acquire a Sri Lankan IT firm to do their IT part, right? So Cisco Labs is a Cisco Labs in Sri Lanka, the IT company acquired by the US company. So Cisco is like a Fortune 50 company. So they're the biggest food supply chain related company in the US. So I believe that even so, that's quite a testament to showcase that we have the talent.
No, for sure. And like I think coming back to like a bit of the more technical end of like the robotics and like automation, or like even looking at just AI and robotics, sort of like at the moment it's becoming more intertwined, right? Like because if you were to just we talked about, let's say, the very basic of robotics, like from like when you're doing even from kids like young age to now, like when you're looking at the robot in itself standalone versus when you incorporate AI, or down the line you think it'll always anyway have to be intertwined, or what's your take on like what's your thoughts on it?
So I believe that now when it comes to robotics also, so when we say the word robot, usually we get the picture of a human look-alike model which actually talks and walks, and that's why even now people try to mimic that behavior in many of these robots. And in my opinion, these robots are actually worthless. And but honestly, the most popular use cases are in the industry at the moment, and robotics as a branch of engineering has become predominantly very important in the manufacturing world today. For example, I believe that even about 5 years ago, when I visited the vehicle manufacturing plant in the UK, and
Okay.
even back then, I think even in a 100-acre vehicle manufacturing plant, they had like I think they have like 200 or 300 staff, and the moment a human will touch a vehicle in the uh, production line is only to install the dashboard of the vehicle. So all the soldering to cutting to painting to galvanized dipping to everything actually happens with the robot arms and in these industrial arms designed by ABB, KUKA, and all these big companies. So it's a huge industry. So these companies employ more robot arms and robotics accessories than the humans. So it's quite a trend and it's already there. And I think for the awareness of the audience, even in Sri Lanka, I think in the manufacturing industry, so some of these I have seen robotics arms and robotics assemblies in manufacturing companies even in Sri Lanka right now, especially companies which have automated machines. So they
Okay.
have these sort of assemblies right now, and they use them especially to achieve higher efficiencies and also robust operation. and high availability, reduce the errors. To it gives a uh, lot of benefits, honestly. And but I think the normal idea a person would have about a robot, about that it looks like a human, is something that we are kind of used to, but it's not the actual picture. But even the robotics arms and everything that we are using in the industry are designed based on the on things in nature. Usually,
Yeah.
let's say a robotics arm will mostly, those things are designed similar to a human arm, right? So it will have similar degrees of freedom, it will have similar movements, because these things, human or the animal body parts, they have been evolved for thousands of years.
Mm.
So it's easy to replicate that and develop the dynamics, because otherwise there will be unforeseen problems, or maybe uh, some issues. So other than that, replicating what's already there in the nature actually gives us some edge to do a design and optimize it. And even in Sri Lanka, I think a few years ago we did couple of automated guided robots and all that for manufacturing industry, especially to carry the finished goods from the manufacturing floor to the warehouse, to automate that. And so in Sri Lanka, I think it was mostly done as a showcase at that time, to just showcase that we can just do that.
Yeah.
But in the other countries nowadays, they have these ghost warehouses where basically everything is handled by the robots, and so they don't have any humans in these warehouses. And so if anybody is very curious, I would highly recommend to check the Boston Dynamics videos about robotics, because they have been in the industry for about, I believe it's about 30 years now, and they
Oh.
develop some of the cutting edge robotics designs and all that, doing the research and all the hard work behind that. But
Mm.
the funny thing is, these robots used to be like 75 grand, 75,000 US dollars,
Yeah.
$200,000 and all that. And during the last few years, so these things have come to some similar models have come out of China in the range of, let's say, $1,000 to $2,000. So the cost is coming down, and it
Yeah.
is becoming more accessible. And
Mm.
in terms of functionality, and now one of the major problems we had earlier when we developed robotics applications was these the power of batteries, the motors, and the
Mm.
processing power especially. So now the microprocessors and microcontrollers, everything has become very small with higher capacities. We have good battery technology now, and there's a lot of room to improve in the battery side as well, but still we have good battery technologies. And because of that, there have been many improvements in the robotics side. And if somebody is curious, you can check how many robots are actually employed by the company Amazon right now, because
Okay.
they simply started, they simply actually stopped publishing that number after about, I think, 2018-19, because there was a huge media outrage that Amazon is employing more robots than
Humans.
humans. But eventually, what that will do is that the companies will not actually employ more robots. What will eventually happen is it will
It's
create
sustainable.
more opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Basically, they will need humans. It will make us more efficient. It will make us more productive. Plus, it will create more job opportunities in these areas of, let's say, robotics operations and programming them to develop the most ergonomic designs to these stuff, right? So there are more job opportunities in that sense.
So in what you just mentioned, like in those robots, is it mostly like these are with AI interface, kind of like used in
Yeah.
electronics? Oh, yeah, no. So,
Yes.
and in terms of like the batteries and the material they use for these robots, is it like in terms of sustainability and all? Is it like, are they kind of looking at that end of it as well right now, or like are we looking at like
I don't think that right now. Uh, I don't think that they are looking they are not looking much into the sustainability angle of it when they're using the robotics applications. But what they're trying to do is improve the quality, efficiency, productiveness, and all that, and reduce human errors, and all of those factors mainly. uh, Apart from the physical robotics, I think if somebody is curious, one of the other emerging areas right now in robotics is the robotics process automations, which is
Yeah.
happening in IT systems, right? So basically, if somebody is going to the job every day, checking his emails and running some reports in a system and all that, now all these things can be automated, right?
Yeah.
So before we started even calling it robotic process automation, I actually saw a news in US or in Europe. A guy basically automated all his tasks in his day job and was simply playing video games for 2 years in his job. So that actually gave some visibility in the media also about this robotics process automation and all that. So which gave us an idea. Okay, now a person who has repetitive tasks and even automate everything, right? So another area would be this robotic process automation, but it's not robotics per se, honestly.
Is it more
But
AI?
it's actually an IT related function mainly. It's not that much. Now you can do anything with AI, obviously, but they have different tools and stuff for that one. And what that normally does is, if I put things simply, what robotics process automation is, you can basically automate anything you are doing repetitively, or basically following the same process over and over again. You can replicate that.
With that, yeah. No, I think that's where like the conventional thing of like, the more robot, it's more AI, and then it's a bit of a like a fear something of we'll have no human jobs. But I think I'm with you and that of like I think that kind of gives us the freedom to have more time to actually do some other tasks where we can kind of like try to automate the repetitive, tedious task and like use the
Yeah.
mind to like a lot more. But so in terms of like if it's like a student that's like looking at maybe I don't know, let's say trying to kind of like maybe doing the A levels or like higher education or like after like to get into like the robotics and AI right now because it's evolving very fast anyway. Like you said, like you might not even need to know how to program or code because certain applications might just already be available that you can, use over your phone or so in terms of just I'm guessing it would be a guess because it's evolving so fast, we don't know. But like if it's someone who's trying to like graduate in like today or tomorrow, like this year or next year, what would you kind of maybe advise to like look at which areas to maybe keep an eye on to like
Uh, I think now I think everybody can agree that AI would have a good trend in the future. But
yeah
honestly, one thing we have to realize is now AI does not mean that civil engineering is going to die, right? So
yeah
basically, now all these areas, like let's say, I'm pretty sure whether we have AI or not in another 100 years, we will have electrical engineering, right? I'm pretty sure about that. So, so basically now all these core engineering fields or IT related stuff will be there for a long time. On the other hand, even technologies like AI are kind of hyped by the popularity of applications, but it has been there for a while. For example, I think the oldest guy I have seen who has studied AI was I met a person who did a MSc in AI in 1988. So that is like the year I was born, right?
yeah
And I know a guy who holds a PhD in AI in Sri Lanka, and he has done his PhD in 2000. So it has
yeah
been there for the last
that's,
30,
yeah
30 odd years, right? But honestly, because of the tools which are very easy to use and more liberating the technology for everyone, that is why it gained popularity. So I believe now we do have yet a few technologies like that yet to come to the world with more practical use of the technology. For example, blockchain, which never actually which was never adopted by the masses yet, but it's actually yet to come. It has been there for the last 20, 30 years. And so there, likewise, I think there will be technology trends like what we are observing with AI right now. but the core technology areas like, let's say, uh, uh, software engineering to electrical to civil to mechanical to all these technology related areas will be there for a very long time. And whoever the student, I think when they are choosing a field, I think the first consideration should be about their passionate area and where they see they can demonstrate most of their skill in future. And on the other hand, I think it's good to consider about the industry trends and which areas will have more opportunities, even in the short term and in the long term. And those are some of the factors I would recommend to consider. But mostly, what will define a person's career, or what will gain out of his career, would be his true skill, the practical experience, his passionate area, and all those factors. And I think that now, since now we are spending an era where AI, robotics, these things are kind of very popular, does not mean that everybody has to do that. On the other hand, it doesn't mean that we have to use AI in everything, right? So I was asked to do some sort of automation related some consultancy work, and they were particularly looking to apply AI for their company, which can be basically done with a simple database, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
basically, you don't need to apply AI for things you can do with Excel
Acceptable and
and
simple.
Excel or a simple database. You don't need AI for that. So I think we we have to be very conscious about things like that. So because of that reason, I believe that you have to select an area or pursue a career in an area where you are passionate about. On the other hand, where you see good opportunities and where you can demonstrate your skills, right?
Yeah. I think you answered one of the questions I had in mind was like, so if a company is trying to, like, let's say we are a very manual company in Sri Lanka, like, it's not IT related or anything anyway, and they want to sort of get into the operations to be a bit more automated and systemized. And so I was just actually going to ask you, like, what would be a smooth transition from manual to automation where, you can still do certain things easily, and then maybe at some stage you can transition into full on automation and create in the, spend more on it.
Uh,
Versus like,
but
is it
now,
very,
honestly, I think one of the evaluations that we have to do in this part of the world is, now, let's say if you are doing implementing an automation system, one of the basic evaluations everyone will have would be, okay, we are investing, let's say, 10 million for this technology to automate everything. But
yeah,
what if we can employ another two people to do this? It will not cost us, let's say, 10 million over the period. So
yeah,
what are the other advantages we would have? Whether it's providing more efficiency, more accuracy. Okay, if it's like more accurate, what percentage is it more accurate? So I think now we are coming to an era where the organizations, individuals, everyone are evaluating technology and business proposals more consciously about the return on investment on the technology that they are investing. And on the other hand, there are people who are doing just to showcase that they have done this one, they have achieved the sustainability thing, they have done this green related thing with technology, or automate related thing, or AI related or robotics related thing, but that just to tick a box, right? And that will not provide them any results, or and it will not help
consumer.
them to achieve their end objectives.
Is it like, okay, so like when it comes to maybe even looking at the sustainable end of things, like, do you see like a lot of companies right now actually looking at that a bit more consciously, or like, or even in the world, like with the involvement of it, like you did mention we are not looking too much into it, but maybe what are the things that, as like, even as a kid who's learning about these things, can be mindful of, or maybe if they're interested in actually like learning, what are the maybe areas they can kind of do their own research and kind of learn about even?
Yeah, yeah. I think I forgot to follow the slide deck.
Like, okay, we can,
Or
if you
is
have
that?
the topics, we can, yeah.
I'll quickly show
That's
you
what.
a couple of examples as well, because I think you also kind of encouraging the conversation more rather than doing
Yeah, no, it was
a
going. So I was like,
presentation. Yeah,
oh,
I'll
like,
actually, yeah, rather than just maybe saying them about Amazon and all these big companies who have stuff in other countries, maybe you can see my screen, right?
yeah, I can see. Yeah,
Yeah, so I will show you a few case studies that we have done in Sri Lanka. So these
yeah,
are kind of industry related hardware that we develop. And so
yeah.
this is the Magic Bit hardware we developed for the education industry.
I
And
think you
these
had a
are,
small, the magic bit. You had a small video, I think, earlier. So somewhere. If you still have it, you can show it.
yeah,
This one.
I
Yeah.
think it's this one, yes.
All right. So we know.
Yeah, I think I have muted the audio there. So
No, you can.
basically, what we are encouraging is developing this sort of practical applications, combining with the environment, with the mobile phones, the computers, and all.
Yeah.
Because the kids nowadays, they actually now the school IT labs and all that have become very obsolete because these kids already know how to use a computer, right? You don't need to
Yeah.
teach them how to use a
Not
computer.
in the
So
computer.
basically, it's just a matter of figuring out what they can build out of that.
Yeah.
So this is
Yeah.
why we encourage to use this stuff to program them, trying to create this sort of applications around these areas, which actually in a way direct their tech enthusiasm towards innovation and creativity rather than let's say getting addicted to mobile phones, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what we are promoting actually as a easy to use, fast to learn, and cost effective platform. And
Or just
apart
for
from
those,
that, yeah,
just for those who don't know, like the magic bit, like is the product that you're like literally have created. Midara has created through magic bit. Is the and I think they have different variations, but I think a lot of students have been benefiting from this product in terms of even just understanding how the basics work and even the sensory inputs. So
yeah,
y'all, I think you can take a look. I think on his
yeah.
website, which you can.
So we actually develop these products in Sri Lanka, and we sell it to the local market. We export as well, and we have exported to many countries as of now. So it's kind of a small tool. Actually, it's a physical tool. They can develop tangible projects with that, and you can touch and feel. So you can connect it to a computer, program it. All the tutorials and stuff is available. So that is what we are delivering as the education product at Magic. Apart from that, we have been doing the industrial monitoring and automation related stuff for a while. So things node is that hardware.
Yeah.
So basically, we use this hardware to connect to. Let's say we know what we normally would do is we will convert the old factories to smart factories basically. So what we are doing is we install this hardware and we connect different sensors and machines to this hardware, and then we can acquire the data, aggregate them, we can process them, we can send it to a cloud application and do the analytics and all that. So that is what they are doing. I will show you a few case studies as well. So I think it,
Yeah.
it is really more interesting to discuss about this sort of case studies in Sri Lanka rather than demonstrating something done by Amazon and all that. So
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
we have done many projects related to weather stations, weather monitoring, and all that.
Mm.
So this is actually to mainly to collect the weather data insights to identify the patterns and to use it for insurance claims and all these areas, plus for cultivations and some other decision processes as well. Now,
Yeah.
when we combine even things like this with let's say technologies like AI and analytics, we can do actually wonderful applications. For example, one of the major things when it comes to solar farms and renewable energies, when there's a sudden drop off, let's say if there's a huge cloud, there will be a
Okay.
sudden drop in a solar plant, right? So then
Yeah.
all of a sudden the electricity provided for the national grid is getting reduced by, let's say, about 20% out of that. So
Oh,
then the people who are running the grid will have to take actions after it happens.
oh,
But
okay.
what if so what we can do with the technology right now is, let's say if a cloud is approaching, we can predict that it's approaching and it will reduce the production by this much. So you can actually inform the other relevant people or the responsible people to take a preventive action,
Yeah.
right? So these sort of so all these systems are actually interconnected. And on the other hand, for factories, manufacturing and all that, now there's a huge demand to do automations and monitoring. So this involves real-time monitoring, collect the data, analyze the data to optimize the processes and all that, sending
Yeah.
control signals to these machines and all that. So let's say if there are like 200 machines in a company which is knitting any garment or any final product, and if a certain machine is having a high number of faulty units, so that
Yeah.
machine has to be shut down and checked by a operator. So basically we have to send a signal to shut down the machine, send
Yeah.
the alert to the operator, and should have an alarm there in the system. Okay, this device is down, this machine is down at the moment. So that sort of, these are that sort of systems. And apart from that, there's a huge demand for energy management sustainability this area as well, mainly in the areas of, let's say, solar, wind and other energy plants, and generation related stuff and consumption related things. So basically, so this is actually, I think this is not original one, but this is actually part of a project we did for a chain of manufacturing plants in Sri Lanka, India and Bangladesh. This is to monitor the power consumption and the generation at the same time to optimize the power usage in the company, plus reducing the carbon footprint and
Mm.
offsetting their bills as well. So this whole
Okay.
system was developed to optimize the power usage and to achieve sustainable goals. And one of the things that we saw was instead of like merely doing a small, let's say, a beach clean program, like a small greenwashing project, I think organizations who are very conscious about achieving these sustainability goals and the sustainability, reducing their carbon footprint and all that, now they are going to implement this sort of real-time systems where they have a proper view about what they're doing right now and whether they are in the correct path to achieve their goals, right? So this is that sort of a system. And so the apart from that, for power consumption in the commercial buildings and complexes, even in hotel complexes in Sri Lanka, Maldives. So we have done that sort of projects. So these
Yeah.
are different visualizations of data that we can acquire and say, and we are actually demonstrating the status of machines, plus we are sending the signals as well. So this is a smart factory project we did in Bangladesh, basically.
Yeah.
And so we mainly manage the energy and machine parameters out of these dashboards. So these dashboards are actually built in uh, built in the cloud. So what we are doing is we implement the hardware in the with the machines or with the system. We
Yeah.
gather the data. We usually use a cloud. We have a cloud architecture. So we actually aggregate the data, handle the devices, and manage the data in the cloud, because it's actually more accessible, highly scalable. We can even go, let's say, up to about 5,000, 10,000 nodes and connect all of them together, visualize all of the data, process it, and do all of things without worrying about the capacity of computers and all this stuff. Plus, it provides very high security and all that. And all the big two cloud players like Microsoft Azure and Amazon AWS, both of them have really good frameworks for this sort of IoT and automation systems at the moment. So we use that sort of stuff, and these are some of the implementations of the automations and industry related applications we have done in the country. So I believe that there's for the last 5 years, it was kind of a dull period due to the COVID and the economic
Mm.
recession and all that. So I believe that the next 5 years will be a really good period even in Sri Lanka for automations and analytics and AI and all these areas in the industry.
What are the areas like you think that like in terms of automation where apart from like for manufacturing and or like operational like business and um are there any other areas that I think we might not currently be utilizing here in Sri Lanka, but that in other countries they might be sort of to
I
be even
think
rest.
when it comes to automated things and use of things like robotics and all, one of the massive areas we see in the other countries is the connected vehicles, automated cars, automated vehicles, and also drones, both in agriculture and
Yeah.
in warfare at present. So
Real
we
estate,
sorry.
a bit on real estate. I feel like the drones part, like trading.
Yeah, in the real estate. So actually, and on the delivery applications and all that, in logistics business, in the
Yeah.
medical field. So there are many applications even for the drones at the moment. So this sort of this sort of new mobility actually has created a lot of things in the other parts of the world. On the other hand, I believe that in terms of the automated cars, and so automated car is basically like a robot, right? It's a fully functioning robot. So I don't think that we will observe it like very soon here. No, we will get like good job opportunities here because our country is not manufacturing vehicles or assembling vehicles, right? On the other hand, even the drones and all as well, we would be more of a consumer of those applications rather than a creator of those applications. But I
Yeah.
believe that if somebody is curious about these areas, there are now, although most of these technologies are researched in different parts of the world, so
Yeah.
manufacturing is kind of distributed all over the world now. Some of these factories are being built in India right now, in China,
Yeah.
in Vietnam, everywhere, right? So I believe that there are opportunities globally available for anyone who is interested in these areas, even in the manufacturing sector of these automated vehicles or drones and these things. But that's not going to happen in Sri Lanka, honestly.
Lanka. Yeah. And I think just to touch base before I forget, like the I think the robotic simulation softwares, are there any that like I think the Gazebo and RS2, those similar type of ones that people can like maybe can give an insight into? Because I
Yeah,
had a
I
question on.
think yes. So when it comes to, I believe, let me check that one. I believe that there was a good platform where you can. Basically, in terms of the simulation platforms, I believe that if somebody is practicing, when somebody is actually doing robotics, there are two aspects of it to it. Basically, building the robot and figuring out the physical mechanical part, and the
Yeah.
second part would be to do the programming, the algo, and all this part. So there are tools available which can be used to like simulate even the physical part plus the
Yeah.
coding part, both of that. And you can even run some of these competitions on these simulator platforms. And
Mm.
even the programming side, so there are things like let's say there are frameworks like this robotic operating system ROS, and even the for the students, I guess the most popular ones now are being Python, Arduino, C
Okay.
based programming and all this stuff. So basically, if somebody can develop their programming skill at first, I believe that it's a good starting point. Other than that, let me check this. There's a nice robotic simulation. I had a login for that platform. Let's see. I think that platform platform is, I think it was VBots. Let me check. If I'm not mistaken, that was VBots. Because during the COVID period, there were like a couple of competitions run on these platforms. But I think I don't remember the exact name of that simulator. But nowadays, actually, now there are few. And what I would recommend is if you simply research this on ChatGPT, it will actually generate you these top 5 results and all.
Yeah.
Basically, there are a couple of tools which are built on tool things like, let's say, using the Unity engine and all that, with more realistic applications, even in things like, let's say, building a small robot to robot arms and all that. You can simulate all of that. And some of these platforms actually completely free of charge as well.
No.
So
Okay.
in terms of simulators, there are tools like that, but I would highly recommend someone to honestly now, although everyone is kind of fancy about developing a two-legged walking robot and all that,
Yeah.
the minute you try to comprehend or try to design something like that, you will realize that how complex that is. So
Yeah.
what I would recommend is to at least try out, let's say, a small four-wheel robot, or
Mm.
maybe develop kind of a small crawling robot like a small spider and all that. So these things are not hard at the moment. And honestly, if you check why I said that these things are not hard at the moment is, now if you check out the latest release of ChatGPT version 4, so in that one, plus I think, what is the vision tool? Yeah, so even with that, now there are tools where you can simply open up your camera, put all the components on the desk, just simply take a photo, and it will
Mm.
provide you the steps to steps to
Yeah.
connect them, plus the it will show you the code as well.
You
So
don't
it
have. Yeah,
has,
yeah. It'll give you the code.
yeah.
You're
So
noticing. Yeah.
basically, I believe that now figuring out the code or how to develop that is not a difficult thing. But the
Yeah.
first step would be now AI or any other tool will not provide that knowledge to someone who doesn't initiate that thought,
Not
right?
even.
Or
Yeah.
someone.
Would
So
know to
one of the
prompt.
exactly. So I think one of the major things in this AI era and all that, I think uh, I saw that, and I saw this in an article. So there are clearly consumers and creators in the world right now. So basically, consumers are people who just watch the videos or maybe ask silly things with, let's say, with ChatGPT about, uh, let's say, they research about silly stuff, they use it for everyday purposes and nothing more. But the thing is, what you can use this sort of tools and all that is actually to create more stuff, let's say, to create new technology, how to
Yeah.
research on the existing knowledge to create something upon that, how to figure out a simple step in a complex journey that you are going through. So I think that sort of things can be done. So because, for example, if somebody is, let's say, want to step into robotics, what I would recommend is basically to get, like, let's say, a couple of motors, a microcontroller development board or a microprocessor based one, and try to program it, try to connect the devices, and try to figure out a simple application, because that is the first step. And even with the AI and all that, if you can generate a code and figure out a project, that is just a first step. You are not going to become an innovator or a great inventor by doing that, right? So basically, you will have to follow that journey and go through that journey as a innovator to think on that base about a next step, which something usually AI or anything cannot replicate. I think that is where the originality, the
Line.
innovation, the creativeness of the human mind comes in, which we cannot replicate with machines or AI as of now.
Yeah.
I think that is where our importance is, and I think it's the way to the future to anyone who is interested in these areas.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, like I think we touch base on like pretty much because I think we this flowed very nicely. So I no, I'm saying like I don't think we were like anyway like touching like had specific questions, but I think the only other thing if at all is like maybe if you want to share a bit about like some of the products like innovative products that you have worked on or like those in competitions wise because I know some students are currently like doing a few like in universities they have some competitions and stuff like that so it may be like giving them a bit of tips on like how to maybe approach a competition where they have to create or like innovate new products what maybe should they have like an outline in with.
I think in terms of competitions, there are some competitions related to, let's say, directly related to robotics.
Yeah.
Predominantly, there are two competitions run by SLIIT, which will happen on September. And there's another competition done by University of Morocco, which happens usually in the March, February, that period.
Okay.
So basically, apart from that, there are many other robotics related competitions run by the school sector and the universities all throughout the year. Apart from that, there are national level competitions related to innovation. Even these days, I think the National Science Foundation advertised a grants program for any innovations which can be commercialized or a new idea somebody is working on, they can actually apply and get a grant. And similarly, there are evaluation sessions done by the Inventors Commission, usually happens at the latter part of the year. And they
Yeah.
have a huge competition, a national one. So I think anybody can apply for those stuff. Plus, I believe now there's a big opportunity because you can basically apply for any competition, even any international competition, right? Basically, the application process is happening online.
Yeah.
And now there are many grant opportunities like that as well. Plus, I believe that if somebody is actually willing to create something new and convert it into a venture, like a business, there are really good opportunities right now because one thing would be because of the digital tools we are having, they can commercialize it very quickly, sell to the local audience, and even reach out to the international audience. On the other hand, they can, if they quickly grow a product commercial by commercializing it, they can actually get, let's say, venture capital and access to the investors and all that to scale it up, right?
Yeah.
In the currently we are having more venture capital firms in the world than the startups we are having. So actually, there's more money than the companies out there,
That's literally
right?
yeah.
So yeah, so the situation is actually like that, honestly,
Yeah.
apparently. So I believe that there are opportunities like that, and anybody can explore these areas, not just, let's say, this is the I, and another thing would be, uh, I have heard this question from parents as well, when they when some of these programs or schools are encouraging robotics and all that to small kids, whether is it worth to invest their time on robotics or coding or programming automations and all this stuff. I think I think it's worth to let's say, regardless of the fact that you are going to pursue a higher education uh, in the robotics or engineering or this area. Nowadays, I think it has come to a level where every student must have an idea about these areas. Because let's say if they go to agriculture field, now agriculture field is one of the areas where we are see there's a huge need for technology improvement, right? If they become to if they go to become a climate activist, climate change is one of the biggest problems we have to address using technology right now. So basically, in a way, this robotics and coding or innovation, promoting this to the younger generation is not just about giving them an idea about robotics. It's actually about solving problems using technology. So what it does is, now even when anybody is actually trying to figure out things using this stuff, they will go through that analytical process, the logical thinking process,
Yeah.
solving a problem. And now these things are the basics or the fundamentals of the world in any field, right? Because in any field, what you will have to do as a professional or as an expert one day would be to solve problems.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I believe that these things are more important to everyone, not just for people who will pursue higher education
In this
in
field.
these fields. Yeah.
And like, other than the last question, I think I want to ask you is like the for the younger kids when you have worked with like the little small ones or even 16-year-olds. I think when I come across this, like they're actually like good at grasping these things pretty fast when like comparatively maybe also because they do have access to phones and mobile like mobile phones to computers at a very young age. But even for the very younger kids, like the ones I think we went on the workshop that day, like that age range of 4 5, do you see like a like maybe a difference, or like what's your take on like when the kids get exposed at that stage to like more like critical thinking, or like even just with the magic bit, like for example the robotic thing when you put your hand in and they can kind of make it move so that it doesn't fall off the table, or like like how do you see with the young very young kids, like or even teenagers, like their capacity to grasp and think and how that kind of impacts maybe
I think now it has come to a level that these things are kind of uh, these things can be taught regardless of your age actually. For example, now one of the main problems that I usually get from, let's say, undergrads or even from parents, students, and everyone is, hey, I don't know, my son is in grade, my son is 20 years.
Hmm.
Do you think that Python is a good language to start? Okay, or else uh, let's say my I am 15 years old. Is it? I am 15 years old and I don't have any knowledge in programming. Is it okay to do Scratch programming or should I try Python programming now? So basically, these are some of the problems I usually get from others. And
Yeah.
what I would mention to anyone would be, now, if you don't know something, whether you are like 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, it doesn't matter, right? So basically, in that sense, I believe even 10-year-old can start programming with Python. Even a 10-year-old can start with a robotics application. And even a 15-year-old can do it. Even a 30-year-old who doesn't have any idea or any clue about this, he will be in a similar situation to that 10-year-old when they're starting off, right? But the I think the kids nowadays who are Generation Z and Alpha who are in the schools right now, they are called digital natives, right? So we call them digital natives because they are quite they are quite good with these digital technology. They are born with a screen time basically, and
Yeah.
because of that, I think they grasp the technology more quicker than the other generations, and as a result, we see that let's say kids are creating Minecraft and other games right now. And on the other hand, now if you look at even the blockchain technology, one of the most popular blockchains, it was actually created by a 21-year-old back then, who is a billionaire right now, right?
Yeah.
Ethereum was actually created when he was like 21 or 23, right?
Okay.
Which is kind of a huge deal. So
Yeah.
basically now I believe the younger generation right now, they have to get into these areas as early as possible,
Yeah.
and the other parts of the world, they have identified the importance of this, and that's why they are including these areas like STEM education, STEAM education, innovation,
Yeah.
leadership, entrepreneurship, all these areas into their curriculums and education systems all around the world. They are trying to incorporate that. And I believe that they are trying to do it early as possible in order to inspire them, in order to give them some exposure about these areas before they get older. So they can go through that journey and they can actually develop into much more productive resources in their workforce. And so I believe that if you can do it early, I think it will be great. and but honestly, it needs some policy changes, education system changes. It actually requires a lot of reformations as well.
I think, thank you, Indira. I think we kind of like, I didn't notice the time, but I think we kind of like actually touched on like, I think it organically went pretty well. I think like as in time went by fast. Um, is there anything else that you maybe wanted to touch on?
I
Let
think I'll touch on. I think in my slideshow, I something we couldn't cover in this area would be now whether it's like related to robotics or automation or to the engineering field. I think what makes someone different when they graduate or after their undergrad, after their studies would be their specialized area, whether they have matching knowledge with the industry, whether they are actually riding with the global trends, and whether they can demonstrate their innovation and creativity skills, right? And I often ask this question from my good friends who are working for big tech companies like, let's say, Google and Facebook and all that. So I do have some friends who used to study with me who are working in these companies right now. So I often ask them, what do they look for when they are hiring someone to these companies? And one of the things that I have learned out of those conversations is what they are looking for is not that whether you know how to do a particular robotics application, or whether you know a particular programming language. They are not curious about that.
yeah,
What they are curious is whether you can demonstrate the practical know-how, whether you have contributed for open source projects and all that, whether you
yeah,
know the fundamentals regardless of the programming language, whether you have the logical thinking pattern, whether you know the fundamentals, algorithms and all that. So basically now all these now for example, both of them actually, I asked them this question whether whether you have to be from Ivy League to work in Google in the USA, right? But apparently now it is not the case. If you can demonstrate these capabilities from anywhere, uh, the best companies are willing to hire you. So that sort of a situation is there, I believe. And I think as I mentioned earlier, whether it's like automation or robotics, the interdisciplinary things are actually coming up, and building strong fundamentals actually matter, and having hands-on experience and practical know-how matters a lot nowadays, regardless of your degree certificate. And doing continuous learning is also a big part of it, and also engaging, asking and learning, reaching out to others across borders, not just in Sri Lanka, across borders would be would provide you some room for improvement as well. And yeah, I think that's about it. And I think we discussed many things today.
you did. Yeah, we touched a lot on, like, I think you naturally touched on a lot of things, and then I think I'm glad you kind of like showed other areas that I think like the case studies in Sri Lanka and like, which was kind of nice. So then we can get an idea as to what's happening here currently, even. Um, but yes, I think we are kind of on time right now. So I would just, if anybody has any questions, maybe can um, either like type on the chat, but if even not, like can send it through to me, I guess. Um, and I can yeah, get back to anyone. But anyway, we would be putting the recording up on YouTube. So I can for anyone who couldn't join, I can anyway like for those who have asked me for the recordings, I can send it through once we upload it on YouTube. And I would just, yeah, I would quickly just, I think, share again just to, hold on. I, just the details. So if someone wants to, because we are might probably gonna do another webinar next month. I have a few different topics lined up, so you can, I would be announcing them on either in my Instagram hybrid.ed or Facebook on the hybrid education. And you can reach me on WhatsApp on this number or email us at info@hybrid-ed.com. Yes, I think we would end this now. But as for Midara, thank you so much for your time, and I think you gave us like a lot of useful information, and like it was a natural conversation. So I think you didn't hold back, so which I'm really glad, because you shared a lot of your experience, your personal knowledge, as well as your expertise, which I'm really, really grateful for. And yeah, so and I'm no, we did not stick to like a basic framework, but I think we did cover like pretty much on all ends and like actual practical knowledge. So maybe if at all, like if some of the I think the platforms you mentioned and like some videos you mentioned, I might send through to whoever that signed up who couldn't even maybe join today, just as like resource, like learning resources. So then they can maybe take a like look at those as well. But yes, thank you so much once
Thank you
again for your
for
time.
inviting as well, and thank you, Ajini and the Hybrid Education team for the invitation. And I wish you all the best for the listeners and for your team as well.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining. We would be ending this now, but I will reach out to everyone who's joined. Thank you so much. And I would send any updates or any of the material. So thank you.